Welcome to Dubs Talk Live, presented by Mancini's World, Sleep World. I'm Zena, Keita. Monty Poole in the building. We're actually in the team store here at Warriors Ground, and there's a lot of folks buying jerseys. It's wins, happy feelings all around, I would say.
Yeah, after last night, I don't know what this store looked like last night after the game, but, I'm sure a lot of people walked around moping and upset. Tonight, this was a win, but it felt like more of a sigh of relief because the Pistons are not very good. They were 3-31 going into this game. And I know they're playing a little bit better, but they're still losing. Yep. And the Warriors, didn't play great, but they managed to find a way to win this game. Steph Curry finally closed the game out. But the Pistons hung around for 47 minutes of the 48.
They did. They did.
They had a lead inside the last 2 minutes.
And we should, let's just go ahead and tell the score, because I hadn't done that yet. 113-109 for the Pistons, taking that loss against the Warriors, now going 3-32. Warriors now 17-18 on the season. Just one game.
One game below 500?
One game below 500. Also moved into the 10th spot in the West, above the Lakers.
If the playoffs begin right now, they'd be in a play-in tournament.
They'd be in the play-in.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
So, big things to look forward to, I think, for the future after this game. Exactly. It's definitely a sign of encouragement. I mean, especially just 24 hours after squandering an 18-point lead. 18-point lead against the Denver Nuggets. The Warriors were able to turn it back around. And like you said, I'm happy that you mentioned, Stephen Curry doing some awesome things. He is our BMW Ultimate Performer of the game.
He earned it.
He absolutely did.
The Pistons, they do have some decent players. And again, they took a lead in the final 2 minutes. But I think at some point, Steph was like, okay, you know what? After last night, I'm not doing this again.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. Last night he was distraught. And he watched how the team fritter away that 18-point lead in the fourth quarter. And tonight, they were playing with it, as they say, they were playing with the food, and the game kept. And neither team got much going. And it was one of those games where, usually when you see teams make runs, one team makes a run, the other team makes a run. There weren't many runs in this game. Yeah. Coaches weren't hopping off the bench calling timeout to stop the bleeding because there was no bleeding.
And it went fast for that reason. It did go fast for that reason. I apologize. I had a mistake. We actually had a different Ultimate Performer of the game. It was Dario Saric.
Should have been Steph.
Dario
was good.
But you know what? It should have been Dario Saric and Steph, because Steph actually stepped it up.
Yeah.
Right? Dario Saric, though, was the energy that you needed throughout the game.
Yeah.
He was doing everything you needed in terms of being able to produce some offense while the Warriors were struggling. They needed to find some depth away from the Pistons, and this is the only way that they were able to get some production.
Yeah, I think Dario was their early offense. He was the one guy getting buckets when nobody else was, and so for most of the game, and certainly the first half, he was the first guy to hit double digits, and so that doesn't happen a lot. But again, somebody had to do it, and Dario was hitting threes. He was going in the paint and attacking the glass. So Dario had a nice game. He really did have a nice game.
And he had a nice game last night, too. He had 13 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists last night. So consistency is huge right now for what the Warriors need, especially when their lineup continues to go up and down and all these different things. And we're going to talk about that as well. But I definitely want to talk about the fact that, I think Saric was exactly what they needed for the Warriors. Yeah,
I mean, you got this three-center rotation with Saric, Trace Jackson-Davis, and Kevon Looney. And Saric is the crafty one. He can get buckets from three. He can go in the paint and get buckets. He doesn't defend very well, but if you need offense, he's probably your guy.
Sure.
And tonight they needed some offense early because the team was kind of sleepway.
They were
kind of sleepwalking.
The energy in Chase was so quiet. And yes, even Dario was adding as much energy as he could through his buckets. It wasn't until the end of the game. You talked about this, Stephen Curry closing it out. Talking about that last minute and a half. Dropping out of his 26 points, almost half. In just that last minute and a half, not even the fourth quarter, last minute and a half. And so you think about what he was able to do. I mean, 14 points in the fourth quarter, 3 of 5. That is when the energy in Chase Center started rising.
Well, you know why? Because they felt like, oh, okay, we got it. We got it. Because, it's not. Here's the weird thing about this, and I think the Warriors played better last night than they did tonight.
And that's what hurts.
Yes, because last night's game, they played terrible down the stretch last night. But I think their game last night was pretty good until the last, 8-10 minutes. And so I think tonight you take this win because you want any win you can get.
It's an NBA game, as Clay said.
Yes.
It's an NBA game, and it counts.
I don't know that you're necessarily you want to forget about it because, you want to get to the next game on Sunday against the Raptors. But you take this win because you're hungry for wins right now, especially at home. This was supposed to be the get-well homestand, and it hasn't been that.
It definitely felt as if the team was squeezing the last little bit of juice they had left. Because you think about being at home, you think this is where the Warriors get their source of energy, right? They're at home, they're sleeping in their beds, they're playing in front of their fans.
The crowd,
they're in their facilities, they're using the things that they're used to.
Right.
But it can be a long journey. Right, trying to get through all of these games, trying to play up to the level of what the NBA requires after 35 games.
Yeah, back-to-backs are always tough, but it's a little bit easier when you don't have to travel between games.
Yeah.
Like Denver had to travel home tonight and play again. So the Warriors were playing at home again, and the thing is that when you play the previous night, ideally you play the softer team the first night.
Yep.
And you can kind of let your veterans rest in the fourth quarter. But last night's game was so close and so crucial that, the veterans were staying out there until the very bitter end. Very bitter end.
And that's another thing we were talking about tonight, like 28 clutch games. That's a lot of games.
Most in the NBA.
Most in the NBA. Now, someone that was able to help with the clutch minutes and also played the most amount of minutes that he's ever played throughout this season was a very popular figure of topic of conversation today, and that is Jonathan Kuminga. So obviously coming into this game, Jonathan Kuminga had some words. He had some emotions, some feelings to get out about his employer, his coach.
Look at the haircut.
Right. And it was a new day.
Yeah.
Today was a new day. He was able to get his thoughts out in the way that he did, and he came back and he started again. And it was a new day, a new slate, and Jonathan Kuminga, I think he had a pretty solid game. Not his best game,
he did.
But he definitely was still the most, still aggressive, being able to take it inside. And like you see, 4 of 8 from the floor. I like the 6 rebounds.
Yep.
That's what you need out of Jonathan Kuminga.
Pretty efficient, and I think with JK, last night, Steve didn't really give him a chance to go out in the last 18 minutes, which,
18 minutes.
That's too long for a guy who was as good as he was last night to sit on the bench. And he had to sit and watch, and I'm sure he just simmered the whole time because he's like, the league kept shrinking, and then it was gone. And so he was frustrated, and he's been frustrated. But last night was really tough because he played well.
Yeah.
And so tonight, and then, of course, last night, you can sense, I talked to JK after the game last night, and he didn't name any names. He just said that he doesn't know what he can do. I don't know what I can do. No matter, it doesn't seem to matter what I do, the same thing keeps happening.
Right.
And so I sensed his frustration. You could see that. But I think, and then Steve also understood it too. So he and JK talked today.
Yeah.
Which, as a coach, you owe it to your player to do that.
1,000%.
You see what you did last
1,000%.
night. And, this wasn't like Steve, when there was a game about a month ago in Sacramento where Moses Moody got taken out of the game, and he was playing really well.
Yeah.
The only guy making shots.
Right.
He got taken out of the game, and it was like, why? And the next day, Steve said, I blew that.
Yeah.
I messed that up. He didn't say it today about JK, but I thought, in a way, he did.
Yeah.
Because JK was playing well, and so to see him come back tonight and give a solid performance for the Warriors, I think Jonathan needed that. The haircut, I haven't asked him about the haircut. I want to know why he got the haircut. I'm just wondering if it's like a new day, new year, new attitude. I don't know. I want to know.
So from what I was told, it was already planned.
Oh, okay.
So it just happened to have fallen on this day.
Okay.
It does seem a little bit too coincidental that it came on the same day. However, you never know. I think it lined up perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Because new haircut, a longer time spent. And you mentioned, that Kerr didn't exactly say the same things in sentiments around Moody that he had for Kuminga that he had for Moody.
Right.
But he did say Kuminga only played 19 minutes. He said that he looked back at the box score, and Kuminga had only played 19 minutes, and he said, oh, he's got to play more than that.
Yes.
So, turns around tonight, he plays 36 minutes.
So,
there you go.
You can't replay the game last night.
That's right.
But I think if you're Coach Kerr and his staff, these guys divvy up the minutes the way they see fit. And I think tonight, okay, let JK run. And nobody plays 38 minutes, 40 minutes in the NBA, at least not on this team, and nobody needs to. But for Kuminga to play 19 last night was kind of criminal, and then from the play in the 30s tonight was overdue, I thought. And so, but again, last night, I think it was better last night than he was tonight, but he was solid tonight and deserved what he got. Yeah, and he also, he made Cade Cunningham's job tonight pretty tough. Cade Cunningham had to put up 22 shots. He got his 30, but he had to do it in 22. He had to hit 13 out of those 22. And so I think that when you look at across a roster and you're looking at an opponent and you look at Jonathan Kuminga, you look at Andrew Wiggins, those are usually toughest player on the other side. We're going to put one of those two on them. And it is really, I think, encouraging to see that Jonathan Kuminga has been consistently throughout this season stepping up to that challenge, you know? Yeah, I think that's the thing about John. He loves to defend the opposing team's best player. He does. He likes that challenge. He loves that challenge. That's right. And I think, it's a good thing. To me, if you're a coach and you got a player who likes that, give it to him, especially if they do a decent job of it, and it kind of helps JK get into the game. If you're playing, if you have an assignment that's going to make you work, your competition, your competitive juices get going. And in JK's case, I think that helps him get off to a pretty good start of a game because from the start, you're starting and you got to guard that guy, whether it's Luka or Cade or whoever it is, you got a job to do. And I think that's one way to get him going because a lot of times guys look for scoring to get him going. But I think Jonathan likes defense enough to where, defense, he likes blocking shots. He likes getting steals. He likes getting in the way. He likes stopping people. And so I think that's one way to get him going. And it's smart of the coaching staff to let him do that because he deserves it. And also, again, he's pretty good at it. And people are taking notice around the team and around the media. I know Kendra Andrews had a quote she tweeted about Jonathan Kuminga as well. I think our producer has this here. Kuminga said that he appreciates his conversation with Kerr today, says they didn't talk much about minutes, but more so about the importance of communication. That is huge, to get a better understanding of expectations and more trust. Whoo, big words here from both sides. Trust and communication. Huge. That's a huge. The NBA is all about trust. It's all about trust. It's about teammates trusting each other. If you have distrust among teammates, you can't win. No. If you have distrust between the coaching staff and the players, you can't win. So, and Steve is one of the things he's really good at is communicating. That's been his thing. People criticize certain parts of his game management and rotations and stuff like that. But he's pretty good over the years at letting people feel involved, letting them know that they matter. Even in a case like Moses Moody, he sits down with Moses. And the other night, with conversation with Klay. Exactly. I was just going to say, Klay Thompson had a terrible game, was moping about it after the game. And even during the game, he was on the bench moping. Sulking, And so Steve saw that and said, okay, I got to talk to Klay. And Klay came out the next day and said, we talked and it changed my mindset. So, I think that's what Steve does really well. We'll see how it takes with JK because Jonathan has had, kind of a long road of frustration. And I think maybe he's at the point where he has to see that he's going to be able to sort of spread his wings before he really believes the chance is legitimate and real for him. That's a really great point. Steve Kerr just being able to allowing those young guys the space and the chance to grow, but also making sure that they have an open door. That's important that he keeps that for them. Oh, absolutely. And this team needs those young guys. They need them. It's important for Kerr to create that space for them. Yes, whether it's Kuminga or Moody or Trace Jackson-Davis, Pajemski, all these guys have something that this team needs. And you see them all play in spurts. Some play more than others, but each one of those four guys has something to offer that this team needs to be able to compete at the high level in the NBA. So I think game after game, maybe the minutes will fluctuate some, but again, you got four guys on the bench who are all under 24, and they all have something to offer. All right, and they're going to definitely be needed. When we come back, we're going to talk about someone going out after this game tonight. CP3 hurting his hand. There's him walking out of the tunnel.
Don't go anywhere. Dubs Talk Live will be right back.
Dubs Talk Live is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Visit Mancini Sleep World. We'll pay the sales tax on select mattresses. Or visit sleepworld.com.
Hear me? Can Flo hear me? No?
You didn't have your mic up. It's up now.
Oh, well, okay. Well, we're on YouTube now. I was just going to say, Flo, I don't have my computer is dead, so I don't have, like, the box score and such in front, so if you can cue me faster, that's all I was asking. Thank you. YouTube, we are here. We're having, TV talk with our producer. Sorry to put you behind the scenes, folks. So yes, YouTube, I am sure today was an eventful day for you all because there was a lot of news coming into this game. And also I think there was a lot of anticipation coming into this game because a lot of people would consider this game, quote, a trap game.
Yeah.
Right? It's a game in which it's the second game of a back-to-back. You come in with low energy, you can get trapped into playing to the level of the competition. And so it is a good thing that the Warriors were able to get the win. It wasn't easy, though.
Yeah, I mean, I
easy.
kind of thought after the game against the Nuggets, the way they lost it, that they would come out, ticked off.
Yeah,
yeah. And I didn't really see that early on. I mean, they were kind of sloppy with the ball, and they were kind of sleepwalking. And over the course of the game, I didn't see a lot of great energy.
Yeah.
It's almost like, okay, we'll play well enough to, like, win it at the end. And they let the Pistons hang around the entire game, take a lead late in the game.
Yeah.
And it's like, then they felt threatened.
Yep.
And when they felt threatened, Steph was like, okay, I'm going to make sure we're not embarrassed by these guys coming into our building and beating us.
And sometimes you have to do that.
Yes.
Sometimes you got to remind people.
Yes.
Who am I?
Yes.
Welcome back to Dubs Talk Live, presented by Mancini Sleep World. Zena, Keita, Monte, Poole here, breaking down the Warriors' win 113-109 over the Detroit Pistons. And even though they had a win, they had a very big loss. CP3 had a hand injury that has resulted a fractured left hand. Now, CP3 is not a stranger to left hand or hand injuries in general. His hands are actually quite mangled over the years from all of the steals that he's had, but here he is holding his left hand, and as he walked back to the locker room, you can tell the Warriors were holding a little bit of their breath there. Because when you think about everything that's gone on this season, one of the main things that has been an issue is the fact that their lineup has no consistency.
Yes.
Has lacked consistency. And so with Draymond Green going out, CP3 has moved in to the starting lineup. They're thinking, okay, offense can keep going, et cetera, and then boom.
Yeah, I mean, you lose Draymond in the middle of December. You lose GP2 first of the year, going into this year. Now you lose CP3
and
now.
GP2 again.
Yeah, I'm saying GP2
oh, yeah, exactly,
a few days ago, and now CP3.
Yep.
So you've got three guys that are in your rotation are nowhere right now. They're not involved.
And there's three guys key to defense.
Yes.
Right? When you think about Draymond Green just being an active defender and a director of defense.
Yes.
CP3 being a director of defense, and then GP2 being that surge of defense.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and the Warriors' biggest problems this year have been on defense. The offense has come and gone, but the defense has been a real issue. And that's going to be the case, I think, as long as Draymond's out. I mean, I'm not saying that Draymond's going to come back and it'll be all good when Draymond comes back. But what I'm saying is that we know that without him, they can't reach a defensive peak.
Right.
They don't have and if you're going to be without him and Gary, you really can't get there.
Yeah.
You're not struggling. You got J.K. and Wiggins have to do a lot to try and make up for those losses. So I think the loss of Chris is felt mostly in the fact that he's a guy who takes care of the basketball.
Yeah.
And the Warriors are a team, aside from him, that has a tendency to commit turnovers. Like tonight, 19. Gave away 28 points. And there have been games over the past couple of years that have been lost because of turnovers. I mean, we can have last night's game, Steph's turnover in the last few seconds. that cross-court pass, snagged, intercepted by Jamal Murray. The ball goes to the Nuggets. And next thing you know, Nikola Jokic hits a 40-foot bank shot, and the Warriors go out like this.
Right.
Wow.
Well, Steph Curry was chewing his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
I mean,
so,
So that's what you don't want to see. You don't want to see, okay, Chris is out. Okay, you don't want to see the turnovers bump up now.
Right.
If they can keep the turnovers down somehow, I think they can weather the storm, because Chris is about leadership, ball security, and some offense too. But I think Moses is a pretty good defender, actually.
Well, I'm actually happy that you brought Moses up. Marcus Thompson just tweeted what Kerr was talking about with CP3 going out. It does open up some minutes.
Yes.
And, you know, Kerr said CP3's injury opens minutes back up for Moody. Now, whether you agree if that is the right catalyst or not, it is the case that Moody now has some minutes opening up for him. Now, I heard this first. I'm going to say it out loud. In the very beginning of the game, there was a small section, I think 3 sections away from press row, that was quietly chanting Moody while the game, Moody. And I was like, wait, what's going on? And it was just during the quiet moments. And then you heard it, and all the press row started hearing it, and the whole arena got into it. It wasn't just the quiet moments. It wasn't during just free throws. It was during the whole game. The crowd wanted Moses Moody until he came in. Standing ovation for him to come in.
Yeah, you know, the thing about Moses is that he's one of those young guys who he's not really spectacular, but he doesn't make those ugly, brutal mistakes that some young guys make that you go, he didn't do those, you know. And so I think, you know, I have a hard time figuring out why he can't stay in the rotation, because when he does get a chance to play, he's usually pretty good. But now, when you're down 3 players, Draymond, CP3, GP2, Moses has to get some minutes now.
Yeah, of course.
He has to, because, again, when you start looking at, okay, who do I have that are defenders out there, he's one of your top 3 or 4 defenders now.
And he's long.
Yeah.
And he's taller.
Yes.
You know, when you think about
he
CP3.
Accepts that challenge.
Right, exactly, exactly.
And so I think this does, just like when Gary came back, then you realize, okay, Moses, you know, probably won't play much because Gary's back.
Yes.
And then Gary goes out. And now CP's gone out. And it's almost like now and there's no reason not to play Moses. And
I don't envy Kerr, because that level of up and down, trying to figure out who to put in the right positions is not easy whatsoever. And it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to keep being easy, because more people are coming to town trying to take the Warriors down. So when we come back on Dubs Talk Live, we'll talk about the Raptors. They just had a time in Sacramento. They're coming down to Chase Center. We'll talk about that when we get back. Don't go anywhere, folks. Okay, sounds good. Oh. Okay, sounds good. Alrighty, folks. Hello, everyone. We're back. I'm very curious as to what you guys are saying on YouTube. I'm sorry, I can't see it on my phone, but I'm sure you're happy about the win, which is great.
Yes.
And I'm sure some of you are thinking a lot about CP3. It's really unfortunate, the amount of injuries and the amount of just, I would say, just misfortune that continues to happen to this roster. I do want to talk about, again, the opportunities, because we just talked about Moody, but I want to talk about Corey Joseph, because he's been a quiet, plays whatever, minutes he gets. Yeah, he's been a pro, and he's also been such great energy.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding, folks. When I come out and I'm doing my hits in the pregame, he comes out for his shoot around, smiles all around. Doesn't matter anything. He is always energetic, and he's like that on the bench.
Yeah, when the Warriors brought him in, I had heard that Corey's a really good guy, and he was in Sacramento for a while, and the guys up there were like, "No, Corey's a good dude. He brings good energy every single day.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about this team is that, Gary Payton is the same way.
That's right.
These guys bring a certain energy that a good team needs to have to kind of keep the juice flowing, And so I think in Corey's case now, he will get a chance to play a little bit because, again, there will be times when you need an 8-point guard.
Right, exactly. So. Welcome back to Dubs Talk Live. Warriors take the win tonight, but they got some more games coming into town. One of them are the Toronto Raptors. It's always interesting when people come to the West Coast to play. Obviously, we either play them, the Warriors play them first, and then the Kings get them, or the Kings get them first, and then the Warriors get them. And it's great to be able to see what's happening. Yeah. Tonight, Toronto losing to the Kings 135-130. Again, defense continues to take the night off in Golden One Center. I don't know what's happening up there.
A lot of arenas. A lot of arenas
these days. I don't know what's happening.
What happened to defense?
But look at these standings. We just talked about this at the top of the show. The Warriors are now 17-18. They are one game behind Houston for the 9th game, but they just went a half game up against the Lakers and officially are in the, quote, play-in position.
Yeah, I mean, the Kings win. The Kings shot the ball crazy tonight. They made like 55% from three.
And they moved the ball well.
Yeah.
Their ball movement is insane.
The Kings are really a pretty good team.
Yeah.
And tonight, Keegan Murray was 4-4 from three. Domantas Sabonis got a triple-double again. De'Aaron Fox was good again. So, but the Raptors, you can't really sleep on them. They got some nice players.
They do.
Pascal Siakam is really good.
I think the Warriors know that.
Yeah, and
right.
Yeah.
Google eye emojis, right? We're like,
Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes is their guy who they've decided he's going to be a cornerstone guy. Yeah, and he's really good. And
they got some new additions too.
Yeah,
some recent new additions from the Knicks.
Emmanuel Quickly
and RJ Barrett.
Yeah. So they're not a team to be taken lightly, but if you're the Warriors and you know where the Warriors are right now, the Warriors are in no position to take any team lightly.
Absolutely.
No, they need to take every team they see seriously because they've lost too many. They've still lost more games than they've won.
Right.
And so as long as you're losing more than you're winning, you can't consider yourself elite. You can't consider, like Steph said last night, we can't say we're a good team unless we win more games.
This is who we are.
Yeah.
So. I want to ask you one question before we go. I know we're getting excited about the fact that, okay, here's a play-in position, right? Dub Nation's excited about that, but is that where they should be aiming for?
No. They want to get in top 6, and they're going to have a hard time getting there with this roster.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not impossible, but you look at this roster, and I just wonder, I don't really see it with the roster where it is right now. So many things have to break right, and most of the things so far this season have broken wrong.
Well, that's a great way to end. Zena, Keita, Monty, Poole, thank you for joining us on Dubs Talk Live, presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Warriors win 113-109. Folks, have a wonderful evening. Good night. Great stuff, Flo. Thank you, Flo. We appreciate you. Everyone on YouTube, just say, we love you, Flo. And Anthony, our camera guy. Shout out, Anthony.
Dude.
He is. He really is.
Working hard.
All right. I'm just trying to see.
We could do what we do without Anthony.
We really can't.
No.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, shout out to the folks.
He sets us up.
All the folks that work around us.
Although he should bring his instrument one of these nights. Play a little music for us,
It's true. We love you guys. I wanted to ask you about the Monty Williams and Chris Paul connection.
Yeah.
That was
Phoenix.
really, Phoenix, so I was sitting in the back waiting for my interviews, and Monty Williams comes out fully dressed, got his whole bag. He's ready to clearly get on in a car or a bus somewhere to go, and he's pressed for the Warriors locker room. And his only question, he asked 3 times, "Is Chris okay? Is Chris okay?
Yeah.
Is Chris okay?"
Yeah.
And it was just like really, really sweet. And I know they have that connection from
from the Suns.
From not only the Suns, but also New Orleans.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, Monty Williams is one of the best human beings in the business. I've heard so many stories about what he does for people. And I know, a few years back when he was coaching in New Orleans, one of his players, Ryan Anderson, who actually was a Cal guy in Berkeley here, one of his players' girlfriend or kind of on and off girlfriend committed suicide. Wow. And Ryan took it really hard. And I from what I was told that Monty Williams, who has at the time his wife has passed away since then.
Ingrid, that's right.
Yeah.
She was in a car accident.
But at the time, he had his wife and his family, and I was told that Monty Williams actually spent some nights with Ryan just to give him some comfort and some company. So that tells you, I mean, he's the head coach of the team, and he's spending nights with one of his players when he got kids and wife at home. That tells you that, I mean, he has a huge heart. He's a deeply spiritual guy, and so I don't doubt that he is really, he and Chris, they have some history. And I know he was legitimately worried, I'm sure, just, make sure he's okay and Chris speaks highly of him every time you ask him about Monty Williams. That's my guy.
That's beautiful. I know I've read articles only, of their relationship.
Yeah.
I know that when I've read that when Ingrid passed in the car accident, it was Chris Paul, one of the people that Monty Williams was able to lean his shoulder on.
Yeah.
And I just think that connection is beautiful, not through only just basketball, but just as a person.
Yeah, bigger than basketball.
Bigger than basketball,
Yeah.
bigger than basketball. And God, that story is...
They're like brothers. I
Yeah.
mean, but Monty is just that guy that you hear no one will say a bad word about him as a human being. People out his coaching, but as a human being, nobody can say a single bad word about that guy. I've never heard it, and I don't think I ever will.
I mean, you think about the right person to try to gear this team towards winning.
Yeah.
Someone that is
the right way.
The right way,
Yeah.
exactly. Someone not to cut corners. Someone
Right.
to be mindful of the fact that we're losing together right now. This is tough.
Yeah.
So credit to Monty Williams and that relationship too. I just thought that was really special.
Yeah, it is. And but back to the Warriors. They really have some issues that just don't go away easily. And there's discussion about when Draymond might be back, and the thought is that he could be back sometime before the end of the month, and that would be good for this team if he's ready to go and got everything together and can be the force on the court that he has been over the years. In other words, no sideshows, just basketball, and be great at it because he can be. So, and Chris is going to be out for a while, so Draymond's value increases when he comes back because Chris won't be back in a couple of weeks, and Draymond might be back within 2 or 3 weeks. So, it really, you watch this team play and you see him win and lose and go up and down. You know that there's some issues they're still working through, and it's hard to work through those issues when you keep losing bodies along the way.
Amen to that. That's so true. And just to quickly wrap up on where the injuries lie right now. So GP2 is about to have a reevaluation in 3 weeks.
Right.
And then CP3's hand having surgery next week. That typically hand fractures minimum 6 to 8 weeks.
Yes.
So thinking about that. And then Draymond in the facility, or supposed to be coming into the facility, and then has to ramp back up.
Yeah.
So still a while away before they'll have.
And
they'll
keep
be at
in
full
mind
strength.
that with Gary, it's a hamstring, and if you've been
And
an
that
athlete,
is-
hamstrings are the trickiest things out there.
That's right. The hamstring and the back.
Yeah.
Two things you do
Yes.
not want to play with
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might think it's good one day, and it just takes one little moment, and so you got to be careful.
Correct. Well, we appreciate you joining us, Monty. Thank you for breaking it down for us.
Thank you for being.
Always.
Come on now.
I appreciate you. All right, guys. Good night.